Today, we are diving into something, well, pretty wild. It's a single hidden grammar that might just connect everything, the entire physical universe, life itself, and even the complex world of human society. It's an incredibly ambitious idea that says the same basic set of rules that builds a star also builds a thought, a living cell, and yeah, even a financial market.
And it all kicks off with this one absolutely massive question. I mean, think about it. On one hand, you've got the physical world, stardust, particles, raw energy, inert. And on the other, you have the world of meaning, of culture, of civilization. So, how do you get from that to this? What's the bridge between physics and philosophy?
Well, the theory we're digging into today proposes a fascinating answer. It's not some new particle or some mysterious force. Instead, it's a universal mathematical grammar, a core set of rules that dictates how things organize themselves at every single scale you can imagine.
Okay, so let's get into it. This whole grammar, this entire system, it all boils down to just 4 fundamental actions, or as the theory calls them, gestures. The big claim here is that everything, a star, a cell, an idea, is built and kept alive through a constant dance between these 4 moves. First up is emergence. You can think of this as the spark. It's the injection of something new into the system. It's the energy from the sun hitting a plant. It's a random mutation in a gene. It's that brand new idea that just pops into your head out of nowhere. Emergence is the source of all change, all variation. Next, we've got memory. Now, if emergence is all about change, memory is the complete opposite. It's all about stability. This is the force that holds a structure together, that makes a pattern stick around over time. Think about the atomic bonds that make a rock, or the information locked away in your DNA. Memory is the anchor that fights against chaos. Our third gesture is propagation. This is how a stable form, well, spreads. It's the engine that copies and connects things. A virus making more of itself? That's propagation. A good story being passed from one person to another? That's also propagation. It's how a successful pattern expands its influence across space and time. And finally, we have residue. This one's my favorite. It's basically the unavoidable cost of doing business in the universe. It's entropy, it's waste, friction, mistakes, misunderstandings. Every single thing that happens generates some kind of residue. It's the fundamental problem that every system has to deal with if it wants to survive. All right, so we've got our 4 gestures: emergence, memory, propagation, and residue. Let's put them to work. We're going to start by seeing how this grammar gives us a brilliant new way to understand life itself. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. A rock is stable because of pure inertia. It's just a rock. It's held together by that raw force of memory, its atomic bonds. But a living cell? Whoa, that is a completely different ballgame. A cell is stable because it's engaged in constant, active work. It's in a dynamic fight every second of every day, using emergence, memory, and propagation to push back against the constant threat of residue, of decay. And you know, there's a fantastic word for this dynamic self-maintenance: autopoiesis. It basically means self-creation. A living thing is a system that is fundamentally in the business of remaking itself, from moment to moment. It's a little whirlpool of activity that's actively working to keep itself from falling apart. And this just maps so beautifully onto our grammar. Emergence? That's metabolism, taking in energy and nutrients. Memory? That's the stability you get from your DNA, from your body maintaining homeostasis. Propagation? That's everything from your blood transporting oxygen to the act of reproduction itself. And residue? Well, that's the waste, the entropy, the aging process that life is always fighting. Okay, so that's how a single living thing works. But it gets even crazier when these organisms try to interact with each other. How do they manage to build a shared reality?
This leads us right to a classic, deep philosophical problem. I can't directly access your thoughts. You can't access mine. We are each, in a very real way, living inside our own little universe. So if that's true, how in the world is mutual understanding even possible?
According to this framework, language isn't just a bunch of symbols. It is an action. It's the gesture of what we could call social propagation. When I talk, what I'm really trying to do is take a mental structure, an idea, a feeling, out of my mind and rebuild it as faithfully as possible inside of yours. But, as we all know from experience, this transportation process is incredibly risky. It can go wrong in 1,000 different ways. Take a simple, powerful phrase like this one. What does it actually mean?
So here's the problem. The speaker might just be thinking about wanting more freedom at work, but the listener, they might hear that and think it's about ending their romantic relationship. The propagation has failed. The mental forms just don't match up. And that mismatch, that friction and confusion and that, wait, what feeling? That is what this theory calls social residue. It's a problem that now has to be actively resolved. Now, let's take this idea and zoom all the way out. This same grammar of balance gestures and runaway residue can actually help us analyze entire societies and understand why sometimes they fall apart.
From this point of view, societal crises are basically gestural imbalances. If you have way too much memory, you get stagnation, a rigid society that can't adapt. Too much propagation without a stable memory to anchor it, you get chaos, where nothing holds together. And when that residue, the debts, the pollution, the social tensions, piles up and isn't dealt with, well, that's when you're heading for systemic collapse.
The 2008 financial crisis is a perfect chilling example. What we saw was this absolutely massive, out-of-control gesture of propagation. These complex financial products being copied and traded and spread all over the globe at light speed. But it was almost completely disconnected from the gesture of memory. The actual, real-world value of the houses people were supposedly paying for.
And the result? A catastrophic explosion of unmanaged economic residue. All that toxic debt was the friction, the error in the system, and it grew so big that the system just couldn't process it anymore. It choked on its own residue, and the entire global financial network just froze.
Which brings us to what might be the most profound takeaway from this whole framework. Maybe we've been looking at the world all wrong. Maybe reality isn't made of static things at all. Maybe it's made of dynamic processes, of viable forms and structures that are in a constant active struggle to hold themselves together against the endless tide of chaos.
And that leaves us with a final question to think about. What are the crucial, self-maintaining forms in your own world? Your relationships, your career, your health, your core beliefs? Which gestures do you use to keep them alive, and what is the residue that you are constantly trying to manage? It's a powerful new way to see everything.